I've been wanting to make a film about cattle mutilation long before I actually even started a YouTube channel. It's one of the most mysterious unsolved riddles we have in the world today. What's causing cattle mutilation? Well, there's lots of different theories, and I today am going to be very, very controversial. You possibly are going to be upset. I might even get some kickback from people who are going to be financially challenged by what I'm going to say. Very much the beef farming lobby. So let's dive in together and I'll share with you what I know. And it's very, very distressing and controversial. First of all, I am a farmer. I have a small herd. If I went down to my field and found one of my favourite animals was dead with bits of its body parts cut out, I would stop making YouTube and spend the rest of my life hunting down the perpetrator, the killer of my favourite sheep, goat, or whatever. Honestly, farmers love their animals, okay? They kill them for meat, but it's absolutely vital that if you're a farmer, you know that an animal needs to be not stressed. It needs to be fed what it enjoys, be safe, and live a short but relatively calm life. It makes better meat, it makes better profit, and it's only fair for the damn animal. And that's a vital clue. So let's talk about you, all of us, being citizen journalists. Well, when you learn journalism, there's a very easy, good way to start almost any story. Ask these questions: who, what, where, when, and why. You can really learn interesting facts if you're objective about answering those questions. But there's another question that often doesn't get asked, because we're all regionally biased. We're talking about our country and the society and culture that we are used to, or working for a newspaper or TV or YouTube for an audience in that country. For example, my films are in English language. So, I mean, I really don't reach out to people very much in distant Kurdistan. But I wish they would watch. But to answer a global mystery, think big. Ask big questions. Do not focus on your own culture and society. And in cattle mutilation, that throws up some incredibly interesting new answers. First of all, let's do who, what, where, when, and why. Who? Well, most of the cattle mutilation, and when I say most, we'll dig into that, occur in the United States of America. What? Well, is it deer and beavers and cat? No, it's beef cattle. Where? Well, again, strangely, it seems to be mainly in North America. Now, there are cattle mutilation incidents outside of North America, and I accept that. And I know there's an outlier case, because we have it here in France, of crazy, misguided people who hurt animals, and also some predators outside of North America. But the predominance of beef cattle mutilation happens in the United States of America. Really interestingly, not in Canada and not in Mexico. There is a geopolitical border that contains cattle mutilations. When? Well, when? I think it's gone on for decades. I certainly have known about it since, I was interested in news. So I'm sure it's gone on for a long time. And it continues today. That's a big clue. And also when? When? Well, most farmers like me, like I've just done, get up early in the morning and go and feed our animals. Finding a dead animal in a field in the morning would be devastating. So when? It seems to occur in North America to beef cattle overnight. Is that a clue? Possibly. So have I already offended you? Probably. You're going to say, oh, it occurs to seals in Greenland. Yeah, it might. But the predominant cases of what we know as beef cattle mutilation, where very specific body parts, horrible, are taken off dead cows, only occur in North America. Odd horses and other animals are killed by crazy humans or predators all over the world. But I mean, there's millions and millions and millions more cows in India. Do they have cattle mutilation? You know, because is it done by aliens in India? No, they don't. You know, the same in Brazil. Argentina, do they have a massive problem with the same exact body parts taken off dead cattle in Argentina, one of the biggest beef growing, raising countries in the world? No, they will have a problem with predators. They will have a problem with crazy humans. But the actual specifics that we're seeing in North American or United States beef cattle herd only occur in North America. Now, typically, that's never said because it's a story for a North American audience, and you know they don't look globally. They tend not to look at a big picture. You know, sadly, it's a bit like flying saucers. If UAP are really extraterrestrial, and some of them might be. Some of them might have been here for a long time. You know, that's my personal views. But you would get a statistical spread from Namibia to Nuneaton. But we tend to see them more in Wisconsin than we do in, I can't think of a W name. In Woomera, I came up with one in Australia. You know, odd outliers, but the majority seem to be in North America. It doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody cattle mutilate only in North America or aliens only visit the Minnesota area? Big clue, in my opinion. I have some inside information that I've researched. It wasn't given to me anonymously, as often is the case. I actually did this research, and that's research into something called BSE, or bovine spongiform encephalopathy. I can't say the word. Mad effing cow disease. Do you remember that? Because you, if you're British and over the age of 30, probably ate mad cow beef burgers. Luckily, and I'll touch on why, you didn't die. It could have been the worst pandemic as mad cow disease crossed into humans. You need to understand that story to help understand what might be going on in United States with cattle mutilation. So most farmers know that the health of their animal, that their content, is good for their bottom line. A stress-free animal tastes better, you get more money for it, and they're easier to manage while they're alive. Look, I'm not vegetarian. I eat meat, but I insist that that animal that I eat has had a reasonable life. I'll put money at the supermarket to certify that it's had a reasonable life before I gobble it down in my chicken curry. The farming industry is greedy. They want bigger, fatter chickens, more muscles on their heifers to earn more money. And if there's a way for that to happen quickly, bingo. So for those of you who have forgotten, and I'm sure most of you who are my kind of age and are British haven't forgotten, Margaret Thatcher. She deregulated the slaughter industry, and some greedy farmers started giving sheep protein to cows. Cows are vegetarians. Cows should eat grass. Cows actually shouldn't eat corn. Corn kills a cow, but of course it doesn't matter because you're going to kill it anyway before it dies of all the associated things of eating corn. But idiot farmers also found in a deregulated, greedy Thatcher 80s, if you fed vegetarian cows protein supplements, rendered down, scrapey, infected sheep brains mixed with molasses, they would eat it. I can't imagine they enjoyed it. And they would put on weight faster so you'd earn more money. But unfortunately, the cows got mad cow disease. Tragic. More than tragic, it was unbelievably stupid. I'm still furious about it. And sensible people in the end reigned and said, look, stop feeding protein to cows. And you haven't done the science. Sadly, infected sheep brains, which had a prion disease, you're going to hear a lot about prion diseases in this chat, should not be fed to cows. And the British herd wasn't decimated, it was wiped out. British beef couldn't be eaten, exported to the rest of the world. And there was a potential that not only beef eaters, but vegetarians as well, almost the entire population of Britain would die of the human form of a prion disease called CJD. But through quick intervention, stopping the madness, literally, and a lucky break in our human genetics, Britons might be crazy, but we don't have mad cow disease. Excellent. But the world, including North America, who are beef-eating mad, listened very carefully to what happened in Britain, and that's going to lead me to explain the story of why the beef industry in the United States is very concerned about symptoms of mad cow disease secretly. So what is, and it's still around, mad cow disease? Oh, it's fantastically weird. It's literally a strange alien type disease. There is nothing wrong with the cow. There's nothing wrong with any part of it. You and I rebuild ourselves, even our brain cells, all the time. You know, I was born in 1957. How much of me from 1957 still remains? I don't think any. I think most of me was rebuilt by the last pizza I ate about 3 months ago. I know that we continually rebuild ourselves, and we have that ability to reproduce ourselves. And as we age, the reproduction is worse. You know, my hair's white because the original color was lost when the cells lost the ability to actually make my mousy colored hair mousy. And I'm very happy that it's gone white. You know, no more mousy hair. Top man. Also wrinkles and skin tone and my magic farmer muscles. And very interestingly, my brain and your brain is continually rebuilt with protein. And these brain proteins have to lie nice and flat to make a battery of information. You see, I'm talking bollocks. But it's absolutely vital that proteins lie flat and make a wedge of brain material. Now, in a prion disease, the same chemistry, the same atoms, the same proteins, perfect. Nothing wrong with them apart from they don't lie flat. So you've got flat and then a curvy bit, and flat and then a curvy bit. And you imagine cellular level, almost atomic level, you've got whoop, whoop, whoop. And then eventually, if you look at a cross-section, you've got all these tiny holes, spongiform brains. And when you've got a spongiform brain, you act like an old person and you forget stuff. You can't quite think of how to finish a sentence in a national debate. It's part of aging. So let's talk about beef burgers and barbecues and beef in the United States. The beef lobby in the United States is massive. When I lived there, it was full of posters and TV adverts saying, no meal's complete until you've eaten the beef. You know, beef is associated with manliness and a proper meal. You know, none of this wimpy vegetable stuff. That's because the beef industry in the United States has a lobby group and advertising and wants to promote beef, you know, for its farmers. That makes sense. But they break a whole bunch of rules in my book. They tend to feed beef cattle corn, which kills them. Beef cattle eat grass. They taste better and have a stress-free life until you eat them. So the beef lobby in the US controls its farmers and controls how beef is marketed, and spends lots of money on keeping government very focused on that industry. It's a massive industry. Something that I personally discovered in the 1990s was when British cattle were having mad cow disease and falling around and stumbling and looking pretty upset because they had a prion disease. America supposedly didn't have it. But what they did have is something called downer cows. Well, they stagger around and can't get up. They've got prion disease. But do they go into the human food chain? It worries me that some of them might. One of the most bollock solutions to mad cows is kill them before they show symptoms. Turn them into beef burgers and let's eat them before they're mad. That's shite. They've got prion diseases, but they're not showing symptoms. Does that mean that eating a deadly bite of a mad cow beef burger won't give you prion disease? No, not necessarily. It's a loophole. It seems to me, and this is the nub of my argument, that North America, the United States beef industry, are trying to play down and ignore prion disease that is going to be in any cattle population because they don't want people stopping eating beef. So how do you test a cow for this invisible prion disease? Again, prion diseases, there's nothing wrong with the cow. There's nothing wrong with any body part. It's perfect, but it's folded weirdly. It makes spongiform. The only thing you can do is a brain biopsy at the slaughterhouse. That happens. But hang on a minute, that cow that you've done the biopsy 10 days later after it was slaughtered is already mixed up with a million other cows and made into a slurry paste that you've eaten as a beef burger. It's not traceable. So what's the point of doing it? It's only a statistical analysis. You can't go, ooh, that beef burger over there needs to be pulled. And there's no way. It's all muddled up in a grinding machine. You can't relate an individual sick cow back to an individual burger. Not good and missing the whole point. But that statistical analysis of how many cows' brains have prion disease in the United States needs to be done and carried out. And you could find hotspots of mad cow disease in certain states. You could get that type of information. But wouldn't it be good if you could find individual details of a cow in a certain state that has a hotspot and try and pin it down to a herd or a farmer who's maybe using bad feeding practices and actually stamp it out, but not tell anybody? This is the nub of my personal theory, and I think it's got some good evidence. So you're finding that there's a bit of a cluster in Wyoming. I'm only saying that, Wyoming, you're a lovely state, Devil's Tower. And there's one farmer somewhere who's doing bad feeding practices, and it seems that every time they do a brain sample from that farm, you can tell that his or her cows have got spongiform brains. You need to go to that farm and do a proper sample on the herd and keep that information away from the public. Listen to this really carefully. There's another way of telling if animals have BSE. Prion disease affects the brain and nervous tissue. There's parts of a cow, there's parts of you, which have more nerve endings, as we know, than other parts. If you could take a sample of a part of your body, I'll let you use your own imagination, that has lots of nerve endings. I'll be very polite for children here. Things like your lips or your eyes or your bottom have lots of nerve endings. You can do a BSE test from nerve endings. Oh, that's very strange. That's exactly the surgically removed parts from beef cattle that seems to happen all the time in this cattle mutilation at night, only in North America, well, specifically in the United States, not Mexico, not in Canada. Cows mutilated at night with body parts that have a marker for mad cow disease. Do you get it? Do you hear what I'm saying? Is it possible, very conspiratorial, Simon, this is, that at night, unknown, a paid-for beef lobby government survey is being done into BSE hotspots in certain states? The veterinary scientists kill cows on selected farms, cut off high nerve-ending body parts with scalpels for an overall statistical survey to try and eliminate, secretly, the actual regular occurrence of mad cow disease in the United States without telling anybody. So, who? The United States government. What? Body parts with high nerve endings. When? At night. And where? Big picture. in the United States? And most of all, effing why? Me, Simon, I'm prepared to say why. Because the United States beef lobby wants to keep mad cow disease, prion disease, secret because they don't want people stopping eating beef. That, in my humble opinion, and I'm sure I've got lots of things wrong, and I'm sure there's outliers all over the world to seals in Greenland, is maybe, just maybe, why cattle mutilation really happens. The truth is still out there.